School Board of Menomonie Area School District to order. Please take the roll.
Penny Burstead.
Here.
Sonia Husey.
Here.
Heather Canada.
Here.
Daniel Paulson.
Here.
Amy Riddle Swanson.
Here.
John Sabota.
Here.
David Steyer.
Here.
Jim Swanson.
Here.
Tricia Thompson.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum to conduct business. Please join me in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the school district of the Menomonie area are embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Agenda order approval. Anyone have any changes they wish to make to the agenda order? Okay, hearing none, we will proceed with the agenda as written. Recommendations and commendations.
Can we have Stacy Berg and Lindsay Corbinton and Amy Zuber-Sickman? Hi, how are you? So they have the same one. So the Board of Education of the School District of Menomonie area recognizes both these women, along with Stacy, for their role representing the SDMA in their building at the National EduClimber Conference. And they follow up work providing support at the building and district level in a train the trainer professional development model. Thank you.
All right, highlight on you.
Okay, Mr. Betcher, do you have a highlight on youth for us tonight?
Yes, we do.
Hello, everybody. So I am Ms. Brown, or Claire Brown. I'm the STEM teacher at the middle school. So these are a few of my 7th grade students and some projects they've been working on that they want to present to you. And then just so you kind of get an idea of what else we're doing, because I just brought 7th graders tonight, these are some projects 8th grade students have made this year during our STEM time and working in Woods Lab this year. That's been reopened up. So.
Girls, why don't you go ahead and stand right in the middle and if you can face the school board, so you can back up a little bit. There you go, perfect.
So I need a recycling bin.
So the project, well, first say your name.
Oh, Erin McNally.
She's in 7th grade and their project was 3D printing. So they had to take a real life object and scale it down to use the measurements if it was 2 inches tall. So they had to measure things and then use ratios and proportions to get that right then to print correctly. So she took a recycling bin and scaled it down to 2 inches tall and then made a lid to go on top of it.
Make it useful.
My name's Caitlin Kine, and so this was during our woodworking kind of project. So basically we got a piece of wood and we came up with ideas of what we wanted to do, so then we traced what we wanted and then we cut them out. And then a lot of people chose spray paint, and I decided to paint because I thought that would be better than spray painting.
Okay. My name's Anna Pesa, and in class we got a piece of wood and then we got to trace it out and choose whatever we wanted to do. So then we cut it out with scroll saws and we got to choose either the paint or the spray paint, and I chose the paint.
So Aaron, what tool did you use?
3D printer.
And what tools did you use on the wood?
Mainly the scroll saw and some sanding.
So do you get training ahead of time how to use the scroll saw?
No safety rules are
Are all your fingers still? Can we see, count your fingers?
10.
Okay.
Wait, no, it's 4 because our thumbs are fingers. Yes, they are.
Welcome to middle school.
Thank you, nice job, girls.
Great. All right. So next on the agenda is the student representative communications.
Okay, so the tennis season is pretty much over with the #1 doubles team advancing to state and #4 singles won their sectional. Girls golf ended after they qualified for sectionals, and most other seasons are just beginning to wrap up with regionals and sectionals coming up soon.
With some of our clubs and extracurricular activities, DECA, NHS, and FBLA are hosting Trick or Can at the end of the month, which is a fundraiser collecting non-perishable goods and canned goods in which they donate to Stepping Stones. FFA will be having their Culver's Night on Monday, October 15th, which will be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. When ordering, mention you are there for FFA, and the students will receive 10% as a donation. And FFA will be starting their annual FFA fruit sale on Thursday, October 11th. DECA just hosted their annual Miracle Minute at the football game on Friday, which they were able to raise $555 for Muscular Dystrophy Association, and 100% of the money raised will be donated to send a student with ND to a summer camp. 2 members were selected as regional representatives from our chapter for FCCLA. Gabby Sabota is serving her 2nd year as a state officer as well. The chapter will be attending the Fall Leadership Academy at the end of the month. HOSA is hosting their annual Fall Blood Drive on October 16th. And a new poetry club has been created at MHS for students who love writing and reading poetry.
We had homecoming last week, and the coronation assembly went well, and as usual, we had great school spirit and lots of student and staff participation at the skit assembly. We had voter registration last week for students in the school who are 18 so that they will be able to participate in the upcoming elections. We've had many college representatives visiting the school to meet with our seniors, including reps from UW Stout, St. Olaf, and CBTC. UW Stout did on-site admissions with our seniors a couple weeks ago, and many students were admitted that day. The U.S. Army representatives have also been available to MHS students at many different times during the past month. And the Menomonie High School Social Studies Department is taking a trip with dozens of students to Washington, D.C. this month. That will take place next week over the long weekend, and it's a great opportunity for those involved to see the Capitol.
If you guys have any questions, we can answer them too.
Who won the skit?
The sophomores won the skits, and they also won the whole homecoming week.
Nice job.
Great report.
Okay, next on the agenda is the community communications. The school board welcomes members of the community to make comments to the school board about the joys and concerns that you may have about our schools. Please remember that our agendas are full, especially tonight. And in all fairness to others, you must limit your time to 3 minutes, please. If you have an issue that requires a response or action, please speak to the teachers or the principal first, because they are the ones who can best help you. Also remember that civility is required. So,
Girls, you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to get going too, whenever you want to.
so Megan Frank.
Hi, members of the board. I realize this is my 3rd address to all of you, but it is because this conversation will continue, and I do wear 3 hats. I'm the men's soccer coach at the high school. I'm a mother of a high school and middle school student, one of whom plays soccer, and I'm a taxpayer in this district. You all received my additional comments regarding the benefit of finishing the MHS complex project, and I thank those of you who were able to respond. A couple of the responses in particular prompted my attendance tonight, that and had a soccer game cancellation. A few comments I heard at the last meeting and reiterated in email as well were about the promise made to the board that no more taxpayer dollars would be used to finance the other phases of the complex project. I was part of the fundraising effort at that time, and I remember it differently. Maybe because I was hopeful, but probably because I never really thought taxpayers would be off the hook for a school district facility. As a taxpayer and supporter of the final completion of this project, it is a disappointing revelation that members of this board would like to wipe their hands of the complex and leave it to others to complete. I sort of always expected taxpayer dollars to help finish and take care of the complex. My question is this, and I realize it will likely not change minds that were made up then and remain made up now. Isn't it the responsibility of the school board to protect and manage school district interests? This sports complex is on school district property. You'll have to correct me if this is incorrect, but the district acts as the ownership of this property, benefiting from it, utilizing it, even having the capacity to take it in revenue from outside groups who would use it. Because the school district is a public entity, no matter how much you would want to defer responsibility for the completion of an unfinished capital improvement project to someone else, this complex is now and will continue to be a blight on the school district until it is finished. As long as it stays in an unfinished state, it does reflect on this district much more than it does on any past or future private donor. Whatever might have been promised does not change the fact that this complex is here, serving hundreds of students and the community at large as a district facility. If not today, eventually, the completion, upkeep, and maintenance of this facility is on the shoulders of the school district and the members of the board who serve it. It could be something the school district could claim with pride, or it could continue to be a source of frustration and contention. One other comment argued that this facility is used some of the time by some of the students. I would contend that most everything in this district is used some of the time by some of the students. There are plenty of continued needs throughout this district, none of which will happen without taxpayer involvement. It is the role public education plays. There will be other requests and other pleadings, and my sincere hope is that this board will consider its responsibility to complete what has been started, especially those things on district grounds. Thank you for your time, and thank you all for what you do for the children of the Menomonie area.
Thank you. Lenny Marshall.
Good evening. I am the mother of two people who have graduated and are now juniors in college, thanks to the hard work of many of the people in the school district. I suppose my kids had a little to do with it as well, but I'll credit their teachers more. I am a taxpayer, and I am the Intercultural Development Ambassador at the University of Wisconsin Scout. So my job there is to help people think about communicating across differences. I'm here to say that I've heard a lot of different kinds of feedback about the athletic complex and its completion. I am remembering that with the first stage, even realizing that it was not as perfect as it could be, one of our school administrators said, well, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have bathrooms, but the school will always be open, and we have other places that we need to be spending our money. For the amount of money that you would spend for the next phase of this complex, you could have a full-time mental health professional in each of the elementary schools all the time. For a tenth of the price, you could have a year-long group of consultants come in and do intercultural sensitivity awareness and training so that your teachers would be able to do a better job reaching all of their students across differences of race and class and gender and mental health status and family status and ability and disability. That seems to me like something that would touch on every student, not just some of the time, but every student all of the time, every day. And I really think that if you're considering how to spend this set of taxpayers' dollars, that you might consider doing something that will help all of the students all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel Dietrich, Claire Schonenberger, and Jordan Hagman.
Hello, my name is Claire Schonenberger. I am a senior.
Hi, I'm Rachel Dietrich, and I'm a junior. My name is Jordan Hagman. I'm a senior, and one of our other captains, Ryan Smith, is unable to attend. She's a veteran.
We are the Lady Mustang soccer captains for this year's team. The captains of the team have a cumulative GPA of 3.92. We are involved in at least two sports each, orchestra, science olympiad, forensics, National Honor Society, Spanish Club, Athletic Leadership Council, and countless community service hours. Plus, we play soccer. We are here tonight to share our thoughts on why we should have lights in a sound system for the MHS Sports Complex. Playing under the lights is a really cool experience, and we would love to have that opportunity.
Safety is a concern. It gets dark at the end of our games. It is hard for us to see and play. This would also improve the experience for fans. It would allow both JV and varsity to play on the same field on the same day. Early and late games under the lights. Currently, we are playing at 2 different sites. More parents would be able to attend games, as many are still working and getting off at work at 5 p.m. My parents have to leave early to get to my games.
Having lights would provide more flexibility starting a little later. So many of our teammates also participate in the fine arts areas and after school clubs. This would allow us to participate in many activities. We would love to be able to hear the announcer and music. The music and sound is often dropped during warm-ups, starting lineups, and during the national anthem. Our fan section cannot hear the announcer and often does not know what is going on during soccer matches. Thank you for considering this project and your views. This would mean a lot to our team if we had lights and music on this.
Thank you. David Leach.
Hello, my name is David Leach. I'm father to one graduate of last year and one freshman of this year. I think you all do a wonderful job, principals and everything do a wonderful job, but there is things that get slipped by the system, and that's what I'm here about. The lights, I understand everybody's, if you get dollar for dollar, great. I mean, that's what happened when you put up the soccer thing, it's the soccer, but I was here that night when you voted on it. And when you voted on it, I came up here and said, if you're gonna do this, fix the old equipment after you're done. Guess what? The old equipment didn't get fixed. The swimming pool has 2 pieces of equipment, 30 years old, diving blocks, scoreboard, that's 30 years old. I know the lights are important, but what about that team? That didn't get fixed after the last one. Is there stuff happening that it's somewhere in the budget to get it fixed? It may be. Communication maybe needs to be a little bit better. I'm hearing that it might be in the budget somewhere, but how long down the line is that? We have a new soccer, we have track, I understand it, it's great, it looks really good, I understand the lights. But in what order should stuff be done? Do we have a budget on what equipment's the oldest and what's the youngest? So we know what's going forward has to be replaced. 2 years ago, I was at the facilities meeting with maybe 6, 7 other people. I said the same thing back then, nothing got done. Here I am now. I've already worked a 12, 13 hour day, but I still came to this because I thought it was important. My kids have already are part of MAC. I know the pool left, right, sideways. I can tell you every probably screw in the place. I've actually fixed stuff when it needs to be fixed when the custodians are around. I'm not saying that we don't need lights. Yes, it's a good point. I'm just saying, in what order should stuff be fixed and with what money? And should these kids be put farther back on the list because they don't speak up a lot? I don't think so. I think it's time for things to be dealt in the order they need to be dealt with. And that's the equipment that's older should get fixed first. That's all I gotta say. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Jane Hoyt.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jane Hoyt. I have been a resident of the Menomonie School District for 51 years, and I am here to address exactly what that gentleman prior to me said, and that is the athletic sports complex. First, I would like to say, I feel as if we, the taxpayers, have been left somewhat in the dark. I do not understand why this came up on your 10th of September agenda, but was omitted from the annual general meeting agenda 2 weeks earlier. You are well aware that that at the annual meetings in 2016 and 2017, the use of taxpayer dollars for this facility was questioned. In fact, I think we were led to believe no further taxpayer dollars would be allocated for this project. I think this should have been brought up at the annual meeting. $175,000 is no small amount. I do think for several years, parts of our curriculum have suffered from a lack of funds. The arts in this community has always taken a hit. No one complains about students having to miss a class in order to have a music lesson. Those students have to make up their work on their own time. I had 2 such students. Originally, this project was going to be totally funded by raising money. Then, lo and behold, not enough was raised, so the district kicked in $500,000. Just under half the phase 1 cost, which was $1,085,216,014. For phase 2, only $50,500 will have to be raised if the taxpayers have to pay $175,000. While the Sports Complex Committee continues to collect pledges, and I'm quoting from your own webpage, to collect pledges and raise funds for adding lights to the complex, phase 2, and stadium seating, phase 3, there are no immediate plans for seeking this approval. Members of the athletic department and coaching staff have expressed the need for stadium lighting for many events and practices, but the amount of received pledges is currently sitting at about half of the cost of phase 2 project. Would the board like to consider partnering with this community in phase 2? Had you brought this up at the annual meeting, I think you would have had more of the best interests of the taxpayers at heart. To me, to bring it up 2 weeks later is, as we say in Bridge, a sleight of hand. I would ask that at this stage, you don't use our taxpayer money for this project. I agree with the gentleman who spoke ahead. If we have projects that we need to take care of, like the swimming pool, and I had a swimmer, and let me tell you, it's a fabulous place, but, as this gentleman said, it is 30 years old. I remember when they put in those touchpads and the timing mechanism. It has to be out of date these days. Everything we have that's electronic is up to date. We need to take care of those projects. I understand the lights for the soccer. I would highly support it, but we've already given $500,000 for this project.
Jane, you have a
The other, sorry, thank you.
Deanna Munoz.
Hi there, my name is Deanna Munoz. I am an educator. I'm a wife of an administrator. I have 3 children in the school district, but tonight the hat that I decided to wear is I am the Lady Mustang head coach. As a coach, I am here to provide opportunities and support for student athletes. The first year I took over the program, I had 36 student athletes. Now, last year we had 43, and we had 14 girls try soccer for the first time. We are slated to have 52 girls to come out for the team this year. Our average cumulative GPA was 3.7 from our team of 43 student athletes last year. They participate in plays, musicals, orchestra, band, choir, forensics, science olympiad, National Honor Society, Student Council, DECA, HOSA, FBLA, and much more. They generally play 1 or 2 additional sports along with soccer. They truly do it all. We are a no-cut program that encourages kids, girls, to be physically active, fall in love with the awesome game of soccer, become skilled players, and learn how to work as a team. We are quickly becoming a competitive program. There's a lot of energy and support for soccer in this community. We have raised a lot of money and have continued to put money into the fund. When I took over the program almost 2 years ago, I made a mindful decision to do a lot of fundraising. We needed new balls, we needed backpacks. We didn't have gear. It had been neglected. And I worked my tail off with my families and my players to raise money, because there wasn't any there for us. We get a certain amount every year. Worked tirelessly to get the new gear and the new things that we needed. That right there propelled my team to be proud to be part of the team. When we walked up on a stadium with backpacks and our own ball, we felt like we belonged. For years, the girls didn't feel like they belonged. You know, when we go and when we travel to our BIRC competitors, Superior, Hudson, Chippewa Falls, and River Falls all have turf fields, many with lights. They have state-of-the-art sound systems. They have great bleachers. And we are very grateful for what we have here. Yet your investment would put our athletes, our student athletes, on a more even playing field to our competitors. Thank you for considering this tonight.
Thank you. Chris Freeman.
My name is Chris Freeman. And I came here tonight because I watched the video from the last school board meeting. And boy, let me tell you, I'm glad I don't have your job. But one thing that really concerned me was the tenor of discussion after the school board meetings. And it's indicative of the kind of problem we have for kind of engaging in dialogue about things that are important. And one thing that pained me was the way in which that each side of this issue thought they had a no-brainer. They thought they had a slam dunk. And when I think about what that looks like, I was fortunate to have my child in Jay Collins' class where they discussed what privilege looks like in a room. And if you go back and look at your discussion of how you're going to spend your dollars, it looked like privilege. And what privilege is being blind to the experience of others. And I saw a lot of privilege in the room last week, and I see it again tonight as well. One thing to think about is there was a comment that was made that said, we're going to be spending pennies on the dollar. And that's why we need to go through with stage 2 of the funding. Well, you would be blind to say that. This is a linked project. There never was going to be one stage. It's all 3. So if you're going to take that apart and say, this is just another stage of that development, it's not. It's $1 million complex. So if you don't understand the true nature of costs, what do you think about that? Something else that happened that was indicative of what privilege looks like was when a comparison was made to other schools that our Menomonie team plays, River Falls, Hudson. And we need to have the same facilities for sports as those towns. I think I'm pretty blind. Our town is poor. You know that. The poverty rate here is about 30%. That's not the same in Hudson. It's not the same in River Falls. And our kids have different needs. And our community has different needs. So if you want to compare us to wealthy, privileged kids, I have to ask you, are you blind? And then a comment came up that said, our kids can have any arts participation that they want. Any arts participation they want. And I have to ask you, are you blind? You know, my kids were in theater this summer, and they had the opportunity to develop voice, develop a sense of identity. And I don't know if you know this, but it's really important for kids that come from the margins to be able to find that voice for themselves. And I realized in my family we had privilege. But I will tell you that we don't have the opportunities for children on the margins to express themselves in this town. So I have to ask you, if you're blind to the place where we live. And it really pains me because I know I love Deanna, and Coach Frank is the best. My Levi is playing this weekend in the state tournament. I thought I was going to come here and tell you I love soccer more than anyone else in the room, because I coach some of your kids, and I do love soccer. I'm so proud of Levi. But one thing we know in our family is that it would be nice to have lights. It would be nice. But in our family, we don't leave people off the table. And I believe the school board has been blind to leaving people off the table. And when it suggested that we should cut a social worker to pay for putting in lights, that's blindness. And that's privilege.
Anyone else?
I put one in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thought you did, yes. Where did it go?
Maybe Joe took it.
Oh, here it is, I'm sorry. Yeah, Margaret.
That's okay. I'm Margaret Reich. I've lived in this community my entire life except for 3 years in the Army. Joe, in the Leader Telegram, you commented that the district could fund up to 50% of the athletic complex due to our final 17-18 budget ending receiving more in taxpayers' dollars than needed for expenses. The amount you had is $234,937.15. That was the increase in the fund balance. But I don't believe spending dollars just for spending dollars because they're there is fiscally responsible. I mentioned I've lived here my entire life. We've survived without a track with lights and sound system for over 60 years. And so just waiting 1 or 2 more years for the promised fundraising to come through is very reasonable. I personally believe spending $150,000 of taxpayers' dollars for the sole purpose of getting the project done 1 or 2 years ahead of time is a gross misuse of public dollars. I had heard that there were some concerns about not being able to host night games. And that's why I put this second page in for you. I learned a lot about these track things. I always thought it was sort of like football, you play one team at a time. But I see they're playing all kinds of teams at a time. And I also noticed that all of their games are starting at 4 o'clock. In the back, I found some things for 2018, and one was at 3:30. So if all of these teams have these lights and all this fancy stuff, why are they starting their games at 4 o'clock? And I'm thinking that perhaps the reason is some of these teams have to travel a long ways, and they're on school nights. Did you know that almost everything is on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday? They're school nights. Maybe they want their student athletes home at a reasonable time. Now, I wasn't aware of all of these things. I was hearing about other needs of the district. So I only came up with 2 things, assuming we had no other use for those dollars. And so my first suggestion would be to put them in a rainy day fund. Because when we were at our annual meeting, we were told that we're projecting a $24 cut in our revenue, our categorical aid per student. And that comes to about $80,000. And I'm going to assume Joel's going to want to raise. Maybe not. But we need dollars for other things. And then my second thing was, if there's no need for dollars in the rainy day fund, you should return the dollars to the rightful owners, the taxpayers who paid more than was needed. And I put a note down at the bottom concerning this if people want to look at the detail. But then final thing is that if you really believe it's important to get this in right away, you consider loaning the money like you did with phase 1, that worked fine, the dollars finally came in. Then everybody's happy they get their phase 2 in right away. Based on other things I've been hearing though, that I took notes on, I would like to remind you that the district already contributed $500,000 more than the athletic complex team ever expected when they came with the original proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Duff. Okay, moving on. Item I, revenue and expenditure reports for the month ended September 30th.
Okay, if we take a look at September revenues, the general fund 10 operating fund, we've received in $111,922.04. Most of that was received in from fees, rentals, admissions, and then other miscellaneous items. In Fund 21, our gift donation account, we've received in $39,714.54. And we have not received in any special education funds yet to date. Those aid payments will be coming in here shortly. If we take a look at our September 2018 expenses by function for the month, we're slightly higher than we were at the same time last year. We're at 12.22% compared to 11.76%. Again, most of that due to bill timing, but we do have the new school safety grant, which we've expended some funds, so some of the costs are higher due to those types of items as well. I know we've purchased security cameras already and chain link fences for some of the schools have already been on order, so. And then if we take a look at our, well, let me back up. Back to the function report. Again, I mentioned it at our last review, but the $290,000 other support services is, costs are much higher than budgeted, and again, that's due to the new technology codes that DPI has implemented. We had always been putting them in $260,000. DPI made a change to accounting procedures, and they would like us to move them from $260,000 to the $290,000. So our when the board approves the levy and approves the budget at the next meeting, the budget change will be reflected there for that. The September expenses by object, again, we're trending slightly higher than we were at the same time last year. We're at 10.34% compared to the 9.6%. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Maybe this would be a good time to delve into this. What is our current fund balance?
Our current fund balance in the general fund is just over 11 million.
And what is the recommended fund balance?
Well, there isn't a per se recommended balance by DPI. We do have a fund balance policy.
Yeah.
We'd have to look up the policy to cite it exactly down.
It's 10%.
Right.
And so how do we follow that? Are we at that?
I'd have to do the math on that. I mean, our budget, our Fund 10 general operating budget's 36 million. But I'd have to take a look at the policy to see how that shakes out.
The Fund 10 balance also fluctuates quite a bit during the year, right?
Yes, it does.
So we have to also account for our cash flow, don't we?
Correct. Our fund balance, it's your assets minus your liabilities equals your fund balance. And so your liabilities, payroll liabilities, health insurance, all of those things, purchase orders, accounts payable, causes your cash to go up and down throughout the year. Your lowest cash flow points during the year are like October, November, and then again maybe like the end of June and into July. It's right before you get your property tax revenue in from the municipalities. We get those payments in January, February, and again in a big chunk in August. So we do use our fund balance for cash flow purposes.
So our fund balance fluctuates quite a bit, but
correct.
And you're not sure if we're at our recommended 10+%.
Well, we are at our recommended percent. We're not below that. I think the policy is set so you don't go below the set amount.
Yeah, actually the policy is, it says the goal of the district to maintain an unassigned fund balance in the general fund equal to the taxes receivable at year end plus 10% of budget expenses for the next fiscal year.
I think it's 10 plus. But, so that would mean that we would have to have a fund balance of probably about 200,000 more than we have now.
The main goal on our fund balance is so that the school district doesn't have to borrow money during low periods of low revenue to meet payroll and other functions. And several years ago, we had a problem in the district in that our fund balance was much lower. We had short-term borrowing that was taking place, costing the district a lot of money. In my recollection this past year, our fund balance was adequate enough to where we didn't have to borrow short-term to cover payroll.
Right.
And so that's been the goal of the board, from.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make sure that we maintain that. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Board members, superintendent communications. Oh, Dave.
I just want some clarification about something that I heard in the community, via email to a parent. The concern is that I don't know who sets the schedule for the sports teams practicing, but evidently the volleyball girls were kicked out of the field house due to the football team needing it. And then they moved to the gyms. They still have practice space. But this parent was particularly concerned about the fact that the football team got more, I guess, privileged than the girls volleyball team because they had already set it up first at that time. So I was just curious if they schedule how they do that, if there's.
Can I speak to that as a coach? Can I speak to that as a coach?
Is that okay?
Yes, okay.
Okay, so as head coaches, as we enter our season, due to weather outside, we set up a month schedule in advance. And it is a rotating schedule that occurs. So say football has the first pick, or we put all of our sports in a hat, pulls out there, and it's by choice, or by random, it's random. So if it comes to today, whoever's on that schedule gets precedence in those gyms, or in those physical facilities. To not have those problems where it's already set in stone for the month, and there's no guesswork, there's no coaches fighting over the space. It's already set for the whole year and for the whole month. And every coach has the same amount of time to get picks. And so I could say as soccer, I'd like to have the 5 to 7:15 practice because I want to have a longer time and I can't get over. And so when it's my pick, I can try to get that pick. But there's other times when I've had to go in spaces that are not good for soccer. And that was a lot last year. But it was a fair process. I think it's actually a really good process for us coaches.
And if you get contacted by a parent, please, by all means, you can either have them contact Mr. Hunt, the athletic director, or if they want me to help facilitate the communication, I can. What I can tell you is that the girls volleyball program has really good facilities to use. They get that full, basically brand new gym with 3 courts, and most days they have the entire field house to work with also. But like Mrs. Munoz said, there has to be some give and take on that. I don't know the exact circumstances of the situation you're talking about, but I think we could definitely talk to a parent if there's a concern.
Okay, well, just for Corey Davis was not that sent the email because he's the coach.
Okay.
And the way the email looked, and I don't have a copy of it, I could get a copy of it before we go, and you could probably get a copy too from Corey. But what it did say was that due to the fact that they have tournaments and all this coming up, you can't always notice a tone of the email,
Sure.
But the way the parent, interpreted it was that, the coach was mad because he had to give up that time too. So which could be true, but, I don't know, like you said, you can't really tell them. That's the whole gist of the whole thing.
Sure, and again, we have a complaint and concern procedure that people can follow, and, but yeah, we value all of our teams for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Deanna.
Anyone else? Last Wednesday, I went to the WASB workshop and coming to order, how to plan and conduct effective board meetings. It was very informative. Picked up a number of things, and hopefully we'll be able to apply them to tomorrow. Okay.
Just want to congratulate all of the teachers in our school district who are doing a marvelous job. We're off to a really good start. We have a month into the school year now. It's amazing how many different activities are going on, whether we're talking about in the classroom or the athletics. We heard about girls did a really good job talking about some of the co-curricular activities as well. So that's all I have for tonight.
At the WASB regional meeting, the whole team received recognition for their service to the school board. So congratulations, guys. Yeah.
Just one thing, Brewers one.
It's okay, the Dodgers are going to come out next second.
All right, moving on. Monthly employment report.
This is a standard report. Are there any questions by the board members tonight?
Hearing none? Okay. Consent agenda. Action to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Yeah.
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Motion passes. All right. Moving on, action agenda. Action to approve phase 2 of the MHS Sports Complex. Jim.
I move to adopt a resolution for the referendum to ask the voters' approval for the Menomonie Area School District to raise of no more than $2 million for the purpose of completing all phases of the Menomonie Sport Complex and those options considered necessary, excluding the football stadium as specified in the business plan for the sports complex dated October 2015. The expectation will be that fundraising will continue to help pay for the retirement of the bonds or for the decrease in the amount needed to be raised for the sale of bonds.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Can you read that again so I can
Sure.
soak it all in again?
Okay, so I move to adopt a resolution for referendum to ask the voters' approval for the Menomonie Area School District to raise of no more than $2 million for the purpose of completing all phases of the sport complex. And those options considered necessary, excluding the football stadium, as specified in the business plan for the sports complex dated October 2015. Expectation will be that the fundraising will also continue for the retirement of bonds for decreasing the amount needed to be raised through the sale of bonds. So basically, the short gist is the community will continue to raise money for this. Since there's all this confusion about promises, not promises, everybody's arguing about that, why not let the taxpayers decide? We don't have to worry about borrowing money, begging money, whatever like that. We just put it to referendum, the taxpayers will speak, and the project will get done.
Trish.
I have been really trying to wrap my head around all of this the last several weeks. I love soccer. My son is in 3rd grade and is already talking about where he can go to college to play soccer. And I want to support that. And it's really difficult because I believe in the value of sports on the entire child and family. And then also I started a list of all the things that I have been hearing about, some of the needs, and so, and some of this came through an email. We talked about, people had mentioned the mural at the middle school, instruments at the middle school. The high school band has had record enrollment. I saw a Facebook post about the Ludington band asking for donations so that they could be given to the middle school. The pool, swim blocks at the pool, the diving harness, learned about the pool, had no idea about some of the swimming stuff. The fact that we have one social worker for 3,400 students. The 5th graders, I was at a PTO meeting, the 5th graders at Oakland are looking to purchase additional iPads and ask for donations from families to be able to do that. And then I went on donorschoose.org today and I saw that there are 20 projects that are listed on there for a total of about $10,000 that are not funded. And so that, and not to mention, like Chris talked about, the fact that there's not that many options for, especially for kids, for theater, if they want to participate. And I'm very open about this, that I take my son and there are several parents who take our kids to Eau Claire to participate in theater opportunities. And I will do that as long as I have to, and I'm so thankful that I can do that. But there are a whole lot of kids that don't have that opportunity. And it's not just being able to participate in a play. I mean, my son is very shy, and he's developed a lot of communication skills through being able to participate. And so I want that for all children, and it's frustrating the heck out of me that those opportunities aren't here. But I don't want to pit one thing against the other, and so I think that my whole point about all of this is that put it to a referendum, let the voters decide. Even when you add up all of the emails, all of the correspondence, all of the people coming here and talking to us on one side or the other, that still only equals about 75 people, and that is not even close. I mean, it's not even statistically relevant when it comes to how many people are in this district. And I think the entire district needs to have a voice, and they need to know and make that decision. And we should support whatever that decision is.
Anyone else?
I have a question. Jim, what was it you were referencing from 2015? Because there are a lot of us on the board who
Oh,
are
it
not.
was the plan that was presented on how to proceed with the project.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there. It was a plan that showed this and that, and we just laid the whole thing out.
Okay.
I guess I would start off by saying I think to ask for another referendum after we just completed a $36 million referendum, to me, is ridiculous. We're a board of 9 elected by the electors in this district to conduct school district business on the school board. And I think we have a responsibility to make decisions. To ask for a $2 million referendum to cover phases of the project that some of us do not even support, I'm not in favor of. I think we've discussed this for months at the board level. Many meetings, I think at least our 3rd meeting now. We've had a lot of discussion. And so I would be against sending this to referendum and would ask to defeat this motion and then to continue on with the original motion, which was to approve the lighting and sound system for the sports complex.
Can I ask you a question? Are we in the middle of a strategic planning process as well? I mean, we don't know what needs are going to be identified through that process. And what if we use that money that's in the general fund for something that is identified? I mean, that's part of my concern as well. If we spend it on the lights and then we have nothing.
one of the things that you referenced, Tricia, was about theater. My kids tried out for theater in Eau Claire. They had a lot more opportunities, and we're in a lot more plays here in Menomonie, both at Maple Painter and through the school, than what they were able to do in Eau Claire because of the competition. But and they've done very well in theater, but I believe wholeheartedly we have a lot of opportunities in this community for students that are interested in that.
I'm going to disagree with you because I am deep in the middle of it, and it's been something that we've been trying to figure out additional opportunities. There are not, there's a middle school play or a middle school musical. Every year they rotate. There were over 100 kids that auditioned for what I think in the end there were 60-some roles, and that's once a year. And then there are MTG, so Menomonie Theater Guild is doing Christmas Carol, and there are very, very limited kids parts in that. That's the only one they're doing this year. That is something for kids to participate. So there are not that many opportunities. And again, that's why I keep going back to put it to the voters. Let them decide where they want their money to be spent. Because we're pitting the art, regardless of if it's intended or not. In the end, you spend $175,000 of this $235,000 balance. That leaves, roughly $60,000 allowed for everything else. And it's not equitable, that's for darn sure. I'm trying to remember when $500,000 was spent on a large project of any other type.
Jim, I've got a question. When we first started talking about this, you said that the numbers you were using were old.
Right.
And we needed to get updated numbers. When will that happen?
We do have updated lighting numbers.
Okay, so we actually have a bid from a contractor and actual hard numbers?
For the lighting portion, yes.
Okay, and what about the sound?
Not yet.
Okay, so yeah, it's part of it, but we don't actually know the full total cost yet.
Right. That's why I think if the board decides to contribute, I would definitely cap it.
Amy?
That kind of answers my question about the cap, because I would be concerned. It's hard for me to think about giving money out if we don't know what the expenses are going to be.
Right. That was my concern as well.
Jim, where did your $2 million cap come from? What was the basis
That's
behind it?
basically from that report. And
Okay, so that would be phase 2 and phase 3?
Yes, projected.
Is that half of phase 2 and phase 3, or is that the whole?
Well, that's all of it. All together, when this project first was proposed, it was roughly $3 million, give or take. And so basically, by putting the 2 in there, it just took the whole shebang and said, here's what we spent, here's what's left.
Well, I guess if we have community members that are willing to go out and raise the money for 50%, I don't think it's necessary to go and ask the taxpayers for $2 million to cover the rest of the project.
But he also, if you listen closely too, he did say that something about, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but I think he said something about the fact that they could still raise money and that it would offset that $2 million.
Correct.
But if we open the door and say we have $2 million, then that's just saying we're going to pay for it, so they don't have to go out and do any other work, and I don't agree with that either. We have a large group of community members that are willing to help fund the project as they did for the first phase, and there's a reason why there are 3 phases, one step at a time. I don't think it's necessary to go and ask the taxpayers for the whole lump sum. I think we take it phase by phase. I disagree with the motion.
Well, the problem is, we're taking the money out of our budget. It's taking money out of Fund 10. And with the referendum, we don't have to take money out of our budget at all.
It's still taking away from our people though, from our taxpayers. No matter how you look at it, you're taking it from the taxpayers.
Right, we're taking it from the taxpayers, but we're not taking it out of our school budget directly. So we
But
still.
when we need money down the road and we need to go back to referendum for something else, they're going to go, nope, you just asked for $2 million. $150,000 to $175,000 is very different than $2 million.
But we're already looking at adding at least one more teacher, maybe two.
Those are different funds though. Those are different dollars. They're
How are they
different
different?
dollars.
Where are they coming from?
Because my understanding of school district funds
Yeah.
is that we have our dollars that are set for payroll and health insurance and everything else. Fund 10 is a different boat of money. That money is not guaranteed to be there next year. It could be anywhere. We don't know what that contingency will be next year. I don't agree with spending long-term funds. I would love to see a school worker and a psychologist and all of these people, but we aren't guaranteed to have that money. So why would we hire someone and say, we're really happy to have you, and then next year go, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, we can't pay you again. These need to be one-time expenditures that can come and go. That's my perspective, and agree or disagree, that's where I'm at.
Well, the money still comes out of Fund 10, whether it's.
Okay.
But that's a good point. But we are looking at adding another teacher.
Yes.
Heather, I think,
Heather?
I lost it. If it comes back, I'll let you know. Sorry.
Amy?
I'm wondering what's going to happen when everybody else starts fundraising, because I know last meeting it was mentioned that, sure, they're organized, so they came and they asked for all this money. Well, somebody else can get organized and ask for $500,000. What are we going to do then?
We entertain it. That's what we always do.
David?
When this project first got started, a lot of the board was initially against it. It wasn't until after the community had raised a lot of money and showed, a lot of community support that I think that changed the perspective of board members who saw the community support and thought that because they had done so much legwork and raised so much funds, it was important for the school district to support what they had done and support the project. Because to your point of if they go out, are they going to do it again? This group was well organized and raised a lot of money. If another group came forth in the music or arts or something like that and raised a lot of money and then wanted the school to do something to help support a project somewhere, I'm sure the school would entertain the motion. It's not, I don't see it as one or the other. I never have. I think that this is something that we've put a lot of money into the music program, into the swimming pool complex. I don't know if you have any idea, Joe, what's been put into the pool area and some of that in the past couple of years as far as improvements, just because a lot of things get said, and if we don't address some of these points, it doesn't clarify things for people.
To answer your question, David, with the pool, because we actually got a couple letters on that today. So I talked to Kale over there at the pool, and then also I actually called Mike Myers. Kevin was able to answer a couple questions from the most recent editions, but then I called Mike Myers out there in Seattle and got some numbers. We've actually spent over $700,000 in the last 4 years in the pool. And most of it was through the referendum, but there's been a lot of other improvements, and there's other improvements scheduled. I know there's some concerns about the starting blocks. Part of the concern there is that we had talked about fixing up the starting blocks last year. My understanding is that there's kind of a almost like a sand top to give it some friction for people to jump off of, and that sand has worn off over the years. And there's a way to refurbish those starting blocks, but the people involved thought that instead of refurbishing them at a lower cost, they would rather pursue the idea of replacement. So more work in studying has been done there. We are considering a maintenance fix for that this year. So the pool definitely has totally changed the space. In fact, the lighting in the pool is basically brand new, and it's really nice. I know my kids are in there tonight swimming with the Mat Club, and it's a really nice pool.
Can you, so that people are not just throwing around numbers, can you give specifics about what has been, I mean, $700,000 is
Sure.
a ton of money, like what did that include?
Okay, so the diving boards, there were 2 diving boards replaced, which were $30,000. The heating system was replaced with 2 boilers. I'm not sure how many boilers, for $185,000. The water softener and water heaters were replaced for $80,000. Some of this was estimated, but most of it's been, I guess, certified, you could say. The lights were $12,000. When they drained the pool and painted the whole works, it was $30,000 for that entire facility. A record board was purchased for $5,000. Lane lines were put in for $3,000. Flag markers were estimated to end up being close to $1,000. There's some meat manager software, which is a couple hundred. The filters were $6,000. Sound panels and the sound barriers that hang from the ceiling were $15,000. New vacuum for the pool was $3,500. The chemical room had to have a whole new air handler. That was approaching $200,000. There's a new starting system in there that was $900. Pumps, there were 3 pumps that were replaced at $49,000. A handicap lift was put in for $4,000. Portable pool stairs that you can move to get people in and out of the pool that need assistance. That was $2,000. VGB grates, whatever those are, $4,000. Do you want me to keep going?
No, so this is stuff though that public can't, because it's under administrative content, right? They can't see that?
I didn't even put it in there. We've been working on this today after we got
Okay.
those.
That's why I wanted you to say that, because.
The most recent thing is the pool covers were done this last summer, and that was $38,000. And then the showers for the pool, those were just done this past summer. That was $65,000. So again, like I said, it's over $700,000 since 2014. It's been spent in the pool. So, and there's more that could be done. I mean, certainly it'd be nice to have a brand new scoreboard in there. We have looked at different fixes for the starting blocks. So yeah,
So let me ask you, if there wasn't a swimming team, would we have done all those things anyway?
That's a good question. I think some of them we would have, for sure. I think some are specific to the team.
Like what?
I don't know. I wasn't a swimmer, but.
Heather?
Jim, I got a question for your motion that you made. So you referenced back to 2015, which I wasn't on board at the time.
Right.
During that proposal, it was my understanding that the football field was also included in that proposal, correct?
Right.
But that has now been, if I'm not mistaken, or correct me if I'm wrong, that is removed because of the partnership we have with Stubbs.
Right, which is why I said excluding the football.
Okay.
When I said that, yes.
See, again, you have to read it a third time probably for me to get all the words.
Yeah, no, I said excluding the football.
The football, okay.
Yes.
I just thought of something too, I watched a lot of these emails come back and I watched a lot of responses from Joe. And one of the things when people had said something, especially about, I think, the mural, maybe, and then I think there was an email about just general, stuff. Well, in those emails, you talked about going out to the community and getting donations.
I did?
Yes, you did. There was an email where you said, talk to the Lions Club, talk to the Rotary Club.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that through asking for donations. So to me, that's just the same as what we're going to try to do with the football field, making sure those donations come in. So, to me, that's kind of a conflict of interest, at least in my mind.
Oh, I think you misread the email. I think I was talking about if people wanted suggestions for how they could continue to raise funds. I mentioned the Rotary Club, which I'm part of, gives out grants. So I think you're taking a piece of my email that's not reflecting the entire message there, Amy.
That's the way I interpreted it. And then I was told that for that mural that they want to do at the middle school, they were asked to get donations. And to me, $700 is a lot cheaper for a mural than $175,000.
I don't know much about the mural that you're talking about. I saw it in the emails, but I don't know.
David?
I think getting back to the motion is to go to referendum, and I will go back to my original point that I think it's not a wise idea to go back to referendum. We just had asked the public for $36 million, and I think we've shown through our Fund 46, a 30-year maintenance plan, that we're willing to take the time to invest in a plan and put up the money to take care of the facilities. This here, in my mind, is something that the board needs to address, and so specifically speaking to the referendum motion, which is on the floor right now, I'm against that.
In regards to the mural, a parent did come forth and talk to Mr. Betcher, and so there's communication in regards to it, so just
Well,
that you
that's
know.
good to hear.
Dan, in regards to the referendum, I had a couple thoughts on it. I can totally understand Jim's point. I can understand where maybe the board would want to look at that option. I would not recommend approving the motion as it stands. Couple things. First of all, if you're going to go to referendum, I think we really would want an attorney to look at that motion. It only takes a little bit of wording on a referendum to really cause trouble. I mean, I'm not saying the idea is a bad idea. I would not recommend that you approve that motion tonight. I think we usually Quarles and Brady helps with those types of wording to make sure that we're not putting the taxpayers on a hook. That actually happened in a different district where a referendum was passed and it ended up putting the taxpayers on the hook for, I think, forever, basically. So I would just be careful with that. So if that's the direction the board wants to go, I would bring it back. And then kind of to Tricia's point, we are in the middle of strategic planning. So if the board is going to look at something larger scale than just the phase 2 project, I would suggest that you get through the strategic planning process. We've heard, I mean, this is interesting how this discussion, it's actually been really great to have so much participation. I hope this kind of enthusiasm is here when we go through the strategic planning listening sessions in the next few weeks. But if there's going to be larger scale things than just the phase 2 project that's on the agenda tonight, I would really suggest that the board see how the strategic planning goes and tie it all together if the referendum is the preferred method by the board.
I have some questions too about the fundraising for phase 2. I'm not sure if there's been any fundraising for phase 2 at all.
I thought there was over
$50,000 already.
Well, that's interesting because the Dunn County Foundation says there hasn't been any contributions for over a year and a half. No pledges, no new pledges, no new.
The Bauer family came last night.
There are some pledges that were left over from
You
phase 1.
entertained a comment from Deanna Munoz. This woman has a comment as well.
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tricia Bauer, and I spoke to what was at the August meeting. Early August was the 4th annual Nathan Bauer softball tournament. We raised $11,722, which we presented to the Dunn County Community Foundation for the lighting project at the sports complex. So on August 22nd, 2018, we gave an additional $11,722. So I guess my point is that fundraising hasn't stopped. And this is just one small mission, and there's many more out there. So just to clarify, that's not money that's just been sitting there. We put our hearts into this every year, and along with many other people from Duluth, from Oshkosh, and Menomonie, and Durham. We're just one small family. But we promise to keep doing this. And our purpose this year, we don't usually publicize what we give, but it was our intent to bring the awareness to the community and to encourage the community if they're in a position or they suffer a loss and want to leave a legacy, to encourage people to do the same. It's healing. It's a very healing thing. Thank you.
When did you make those contributions to the Dunn County?
August 22nd, we made a presentation to Kayla Hunt and to Georgiana at the community. There was a picture, photo posted on the Menomonie School District website.
And that was specifically for phase two?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Because when I asked her, I talked to her Wednesday, she said there hadn't been anything, so it must have slipped her mind.
Yeah.
Well, and there's not a specific fund set up specifically for phase two. There's one fund for this entire sports complex. And like I put into the board background, there's been money given already. There's been pledges made. There's also sponsorships that are long-term sponsorships for the complex. But I do think that it's important to note that $175,000 has not been raised yet. $175,000 has not been pledged yet. And that's why in the suggestion, if the board is going to consider this, I do not think the board should consider moving forward until either enough cash and or pledges and sponsorships has been received to pay that half of the cost. So I think your point is relevant, Dan. I know there's a lot of people waiting that are interested in raising more money, but I think everyone's kind of waiting to see what the board does.
I have just a quick question about fundraising too. I know that some of the money comes straight to district, I think.
Yes.
And then some is going into this community foundation. So if you pull the two together, is that more than what's in the foundation and more,
Right.
So, because that would be helpful to know too, how much that is together.
Right. Like I said, I think the last count is more than $50,000, and there's pledges on top of that, but it's not near the 175 yet.
So that would be their half, and our half would be 175 if it were to pass.
Yes.
It would not exceed 175.
Right.
Is what sounds like.
And that's the whole point. I think people are waiting to find out if the board is going to support this or not. But you still have a motion on the table, and I just wanted to put out there about being concerned with the legal part of a referendum.
I think we need to make a decision on the referendum motion on the table.
I think, okay, so you brought up some issues about whether the wording is correct on that. So there's no way to reconcile that at this point.
Well, the board can do what they want. I won't advise it without an attorney reviewing the language. I don't doubt Jim's aptitude for being an attorney, but I would not recommend it.
Then maybe we should table it so we get that information.
Would it be possible to vote on what was recommended and maybe add a friendly amendment of?
Upon review of, I'll throw the words in there, upon review of attorney. That's fine. I mean, it makes sense to have it.
I still think that to ask for another referendum at this point, after what we have done in this district over the last 3 years, is ridiculous. And this is just an attempt, in my mind, to skirt the issue and to delay. And so I think that we need to take a vote on this motion. I think it needs to be defeated and move on to the original motion, which was to...
It wasn't the original motion.
Huh?
This was the original motion.
Dan stated the original motion. You made...
No.
You offered yours.
No.
No, there was no motion.
This is the original motion. There was
Can't have
another
two
motion.
motions on the floor.
We don't have two motions on the floor.
No. So the only motion is for referendum.
On the agenda, it's action to approve phase 2 of the sports complex.
Right.
It's not to go to referendum.
There was never a motion in second.
I know that.
The only motion right now was...
I understand that.
Okay.
I think what Dave was trying to say is what's in board docs is what he views as the motion.
You know, that's an interesting point, and I didn't think about it until right now. There are certain notice requirements also with scheduling a referendum. I'd be cautious to approve the referendum resolution without proper notice on the agenda. It may be legal, but I honestly can't recommend it.
Well, I was saying that too. I mean, if it did pass for a referendum, what is the timeline or this would go on the November ballot because I believe it would be too late.
No.
So it would
I know that
be,
for sure.
There's guidelines with that.
It's like 45 days or something.
No.
It would be on the spring ballot.
But I'm talking even the posting requirement.
Right,
I think
right.
the
I'm
agenda,
just thinking of the
the agenda has to
ratification.
include
Yeah.
a specific resolution. It's pretty specific what's required to go to referendum, and it's actually gotten tighter over the years.
Right.
And then you also have to think if the referendum doesn't pass, I believe there's now a trigger in the law where if you fail a referendum, that could actually handcuff you for a while.
Yes.
Even if it's a referendum of small magnitude.
We're allowed 2 referendums.
I just think it should all be reviewed before you approve a referendum resolution.
I have no problem with that.
Call the question.
David makes a motion to call the question. That requires a 2/3 vote. May I have a roll call?
What are
Wait,
we
what are we
voting on?
David has called the question, which means we are ending the debate, and that requires a 2/3 vote.
To end
End
the discussion.
End the
and move
discussion.
forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Henning,
Yes.
Tanya,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Dan,
No.
Amy,
No.
John,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Tricia,
Yes.
7-2.
Okay, all right. So, question has been called. We vote on the, do we want to make any amendments to the?
Yeah.
No, okay. Then let's vote on the referendum motion.
And now we're voting on referendum, okay.
We're voting on Jim's statement.
Correct.
On Jim's
My motion.
So a
Sorry,
vote-
motion.
Yes.
A no vote is to be against going to referendum.
Correct.
Right, the motion was to approve a resolution to go to referendum. So yes vote means you go to referendum, and no vote means no. No referendum.
So yes for referendum, no for now.
Correct.
All right, start with Tanya.
No.
I'm sorry, what?
No.
Heather,
No.
Dan,
Yes?
Amy,
Yes.
John,
No.
David,
No.
Jim,
Yes.
Tricia,
Yes.
Henning.
No.
5-4, yes.
No.
I'm sorry, I was
The
back.
motion is defeated.
Defeated. 5-4.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the phase 2 funding of the sports complex.
I'll
as
second
presented
that.
before that.
I'll second it.
All right, discussion. First of all, I'd like to know where the money's coming from.
I think the board, like we've talked about, the board could utilize the Fund 10 fund balance.
Are we already low on the Fund 10 fund balance?
Our fund balance is sufficient to handle cash flow.
But we're not at the policy recommended rate level.
I don't have the calculation in front of me, Dan, and I'd have to do the calculation.
So my calculation was that our current fund balance is at $11,088,079. And the recommended policy is $11,242,980.
I don't know, I'd have to, Leah would have to run the numbers and cross-check that. What I do know is that our fund balance is sufficient for maintaining cash flow in the district.
After taking this out.
Yes, and I do not believe this would be taken out anytime soon. I mean, the tightest time of year, Leah, is when?
November.
November, so this isn't gonna happen by November.
So you can guarantee that we won't have any problems with this.
Guarantee is a big word.
We have sufficient cash flow to handle the cash flow of the district.
Amy?
My question is, so if that's the case, when does construction start? Passes.
Well, I think what we wrote in board docs was that construction would not begin until the bids were received and that at least half of the cost would be either raised in cash, pledges, or sponsorships. So until $175,000.
Okay, so it's very possible that we won't have it this spring then.
Correct.
And that's what everybody's been talking about. Oh, we gotta hurry up, we gotta hurry up, we gotta have it this spring. So now it doesn't, we're not even have it spring anyway, even if we do go.
I'm not sure what the timing would be, Amy, and I want to make it clear, I'm not pushing this or the board to do this at all.
Well, I'm just making that statement. And I just like to, just for the record, I'd like to say that when the committee first came to fundraise, I saw the writing on the wall, this would happen. And I said no from the beginning, and I continued to say no. And I would just like to say that only because I think my integrity is important, because I've heard of a lot of other people that have been pretty wishy-washy about it.
David?
I'll go back to what I've been saying for quite some time on this project. I think the school district is blessed to have a community that has raised as much money as they have and put towards this project. We're very fortunate. And for the taxpayers to pay to get a sports complex like we have for less than 50 cents on the dollar is remarkable. I spoke with the district administrator from Durham the other day. They have a new sports complex, $2.7 million. The school board had to pledge $1 million up front before the project ever started, just to get the project going. I think in this district, what we're talking now is a total input by the district up to $675,000, $500,000 initially, and $175,000 capped on this project. Is still great value for the dollar for what we're proposing. So we've heard a lot of great comments tonight for those that have been in support, especially Megan Frank. Very well thought out, detailed discussion and some good points. Everybody that was in support. And as far as some of the folks that were against it, I don't look at this as taking away from other projects in the district. We have a strategic planning process that has begun, and I think that if there are projects that have value and have a lot of support within the district, bring them forward. I urge you to bring them forward, because I think that if they have value in the community and make it through the strategic plan, we'll find a way to fund them. And also thing I'd like to, I guess, you know, I know Potter and Tricia, you guys have put a lot of heart and soul into this for a long time. And so I thank you guys for your tireless efforts to see this through and appreciate that. So thank you.
So please educate me, I'm very sincere about this. The Fund 10 balance is what we're going to be using to pay, theoretically, to pay for the $175,000 for the lighting and the sound system. Where, if other people bring forth great proposals that have all the support and are things that we want to do, or that the strategic planning process identifies, where does that money come from? I mean, if there's $175,000 and it's $235,000, are you saying then, well, then whatever these other projects are, they have to fit into that additional $60,000, and if they don't, well then, where else would that money come, you know, where else would we pay for things?
Right, and that's a good point, and I think it needs to be clear too that there's no guarantee that this contribution would actually have to come out of the fund balance. I mean, you all know that the last several years, the board has made budget transfers at the end of the year to put money into Fund 46 for our capital improvement fund. Last year, $1 million at the end of the year was put into the post-employment benefit trust. So the board has done a great job prioritizing many of these long-term investments. But if the board wants to do something in the near term, there is the opportunity, but it really comes down to what the board wants to do. You know, Dan's mentioned the fund balance policy and the recommended fund balance. There's no law what our fund balance has to be, but I know that we worked really hard to get our fund balance to the point where we wouldn't have to worry about having a line of credit or short-term borrowing. At the same time, I think the board has also had conversations about not wanting to have the fund balance grow too large when there's other needs in the school district. But to more specifically answer Tricia's question, there's all sorts of ways that we get creative to try to fund different projects, whether it be through booster clubs. You mentioned the donor choose. There's a lot of things that might be supplemental in nature. I really think some of it's really neat. Some of these exercise balls that kids are sitting on, and fidget, not fidget spinners, but no, let's not talk about. But different sensory type of materials, and some teachers are trying to try new things, and some of that's purchased through Fund 10, some of it's through Donors Choose. Even the pool is a great example. So, some things are raised by MAC or donated through the Aquatics Club, but a lot of it has come from either Fund 10 or in some cases a community service fund. So it really just kind of depends on what the ideas are. A lot of our student groups have raised money for some pretty neat things in our district too. So I wouldn't want to pigeonhole that things only have to come from Fund 10, but certainly that is the operating fund.
Jim?
It would seem to me that since we're having strategic planning going on right now, that in addition to making this contingent on the second half of the funds being raised, it should also be contingent on whether the community and all the people participating in strategic planning show that this is a worthwhile project. And that other things like arts, and like one of the things we're looking at here in our discussion later on is adding a para to help the music program because they're totally swamped.
Right.
Is a halftime para enough for music teachers that basically had their coursework doubled in the last year because of schedule changes? There's so many other things where this money could be used. It seems like, sure, if we go for it, great, but what if strategic planning shows other needs that are more important?
Right.
And so why do we want to pigeonhole ourselves into spending this money on something that may be, third or fourth or fifth or who knows what on the list when strategic planning gets done?
So it's a legitimate thought.
I still go back to what we put into fund balance, Fund 46, Fund 73 last year, and the year before. Both years we've had a surplus. And so I don't think we're taking away from those programs if there's legitimate need. I think that if that comes through the strategic planning process, we have the needs to, or the ability to address that.
And if you remember right, last year I kept asking, what is our fund, what does our balance look like? Are we going to end up with a surplus? And there was no answer, can't tell. Then all of a sudden, in May or June, we come up with a surplus, and then it's too late to do anything. We can't make any purchases on that. All we can do is transfer that into those funds.
We did utilize some of that money, the middle school project, and some of that money was utilized. You know why it was so late getting the answers, don't you, Dan?
Well, yeah, I know, because we basically, hang on to that money as long as possible.
No, we're waiting for the health insurance and some other things that we don't get the final numbers. We don't know some of those numbers until that time frame.
Right,
so
I know.
it's out of our control.
Yeah, but we do have a good idea what we're looking at, was basically coming into that. So,
well, the size of our budget, when you're talking $250,000, it's such a small percentage of the budget that can swing in 1 hour with the auditors.
right.
So I think you got to be a little careful in terms of what your expectation is. And Mrs. Hoyt had a really interesting, nice comment about the annual meeting, and that's another thing. This came forward at after the annual meeting, and at that time, we're still wrapping things up with the audit and getting the final budget transfers. That's partly where the idea of being able to fund it through Fund 10 would be. And then I just had a couple other notes. Mr. Freeman spoke about poverty and privilege, and he had some really, real thoughts there about Hudson and River Falls, and I understand that. But in some of the other schools that were mentioned by the girls, Superior, I have the freedom, some of the freedom to do some lunch numbers here because we're going to be talking about assessment after a while. Superior was listed, I think, almost 47%. You know, whereas in Menomonie it's 35. You know, this is last year's data. And then, you know, even Rice Lake 39% and Chippewa Falls 37%. So this isn't just about privilege, we're talking about Hudson and River Falls. This is also trying to provide students in Menomonie a similar experience than what you're seeing at some of these other schools that, you know, maybe even less privileged depending on how you measure privilege. It's a legitimate point though.
David?
The other comment, Larry Marshall made a comment that we could put counselors and I think social workers in every school. The only thing is with that's not a one-time money, that's ongoing money that was required every year. So this year's, what we're talking here is one-time money. So it's a big difference between if you're funding a position that's going to be ongoing versus a one-time fund.
Is there a deadline then that we have to use those funds that's in 2010?
No, there's not.
And then the other question is, I know it was mentioned once before about a loan, like, is there a possibility of doing a loan? Is there an upside, downside? I mean, other than the fact that they're going to pay it back. I guess I'm just curious about people's thoughts on that. Because I know, because there was a part of phase 1, there was a loan attached to it, right? So I don't know.
I would not recommend loaning without either the pledges or sponsorships at least being obtained. My recommendation is that no construction begins until the whole project is either funded or at least pledged. I think for the protection of the district, that's smart.
So with phase 1, what money was loaned?
About $125,000. It just now got paid up, which is why.
And then on top of that, the district contributed $500,000?
$500 million, yes.
But weren't there already pledges in place, the physical dollars just
Right.
weren't accumulated yet?
Right. So total, it was a little over, almost 1.2 million, a little over 1.1 million total. And the district ended up paying 500,000 of that, but front-loaded some of the initial expense until it could be paid back. But the construction was not started until enough pledges were received.
And that was out of the same fund?
Yes.
That, I think, is where I'm struggling. There was that amount of money that was in that fund, and a huge chunk of it went to the development of the sports complex. And now here we are again with a big chunk of money in there, and it's going to the sports complex again. Just struggling with how much support the sports complex has gotten and the other needs that are still there.
Maybe we can get a little background on this phase 2 request. Who decided to bring this forward? Where's the committee? Did the committee meet and decide to bring this forward?
I think with phase 2, the major interest has come forward from the programs, the coaches, the kids, the parents. They have been speaking with Mr. Hunt, and then Mr. Hunt requested that it be considered from me. And that's why when we had our final year-end budget transfers, I asked the board if the board was interested in entertaining the discussion. And when some of the board members said yes, that's how it continued with the discussion.
So it's basically the coaches that started.
Coaches, players, parents, yes.
And so why didn't we tell them that we should put this off and until we consider our strategic plan?
We could. But because when I asked the board if the board wanted to consider it, the board said, yes, let's talk about it. So we talked about it, and then the board said, let's talk about it again. So it's on the agenda again. And at the last agenda, board members said, let's put it on there for a vote.
I own it. I said, let's take it to vote because we're beating the same dead horse and kicking the can down the road even further.
Okay, then what about phase 3? When are we gonna see phase 3 come down the road?
I do not know. And honestly, when we looked at phase 1, I did not know how soon we'd see phase 2. But like we've talked about at some of the previous meetings, I think now that the facility's being used, I think the players, the coaches, the parents, community members have a better idea now what it's like to use that facility, and I think people now are more encouraged about phase 2. I know Mrs. Bryce shared the track schedule, and she had some confusion about track. And when track starts, I mean, if you've ever been to a track meet, those can last all night. But then I think she was confused maybe with the soccer events. The soccer events are the ones that typically start later in other places in the conference. I noticed when I was reading the upcoming events during the radio broadcast on Friday night, I noticed that there's supposed to be 2 or 3 soccer events this week, and in Menomonie we're starting at 4:30 because the days are getting shorter and shorter. So it's, I understand the need, but I also understand there's thoughts on both sides of this issue. But I want to make it clear, Dan, I'm not pushing this. I simply asked the board if the board was interested in discussing it.
David?
We did just contribute $100,000 towards Donald Williams, and so that's for a 10-year commitment to that stadium. I think the feeling, at least from the people that I talked to, is for a lot of the district, at least perfectly happy. That's a great venue for football, and I don't know if anyone personally is pushing to move football back to the high school.
No, I don't think anyone is, but yeah, again, we just put $100,000 into the football, and now we're gonna put $175 into track and soccer.
Amazing to me from the letters that we received, how many of the kids that are involved in sports are also involved in music and the arts and teaching forensics. It's not we keep trying to pit one against the other. I really don't think that's what this is about. I think we have room in this district for both. It's that whole wing.
I'm not getting it.
But also the floor, the choir and the band can't practice at the same time because the rentals through the floor, so the choir can't even sing with the band. So that hasn't been addressed that I know of.
Yeah, that's a problem. And we actually, I know when Mike Myers was here, we had multiple engineers in to look at that, and they actually even cut away the floor from the wall because that's where they thought it was going through. But then when they did that, that didn't fix. They tried reinforcing the wall. They tried stuff in the ceiling. They thought it was maybe the air ducts. There's been multiple engineers there, and I think just the pounding on the drums is just going to be too much. So Mr. Munoz has done a good job working with the teachers and try to avoid the scheduling, and it's worked out pretty well from what I've been told. But I have not been in there during a time when the band is playing and the choir is singing. But to Tricia's point, you know, if you do look at the referendum, there was a lot done in the high school, which included the music, whether you're talking about the classroom wing or whether you're talking about the auditorium. And again, it's really unfortunate that some people want to pit these activities against each other because, you know, you're really comparing apples and oranges. I mean, if you look at the annual budget for how many music teachers we have in our school district or art teachers, and we should, that's a really critical, important piece to our programming here. But you know, if we actually added up the dollars that are being spent on the fine arts each year in the annual budget, it's a lot. And I know that there's a lot of money spent in athletics and other co-curricular activities too. But if you look at the number of full-time people that we have providing experiences for our kids, it's really quite impressive. I've been in small schools where the classroom teachers taught art and music might have been just once in a while, and especially at the elementary level, it's amazing that we're able to have such a high level of staffing, and I think it's something we should really be proud of.
Just so I'm clear, it's not just the music, theater, art, and music. And I already had listed a whole bunch of different needs that have been already communicated, and I know that you're aware of, not that you needed to do something necessarily specifically about them by yourself, but add that to, again, going on to the donors choose. I mean, right there were 20 projects, and I thought, why are we even having this? Like, why are those still even there? Like, how, I know the district knows about those projects, and yet we're talking about a huge chunk of money that it's going to go for a sports complex. It's just hard to be okay with that. And yet, like I started out saying at the beginning, my child is going to at some point be participating at the high school level in soccer, and I want to support that. But I'm speaking out loud because I think people need to hear how difficult this is, that it's not an easy decision. There's a lot of, this is hard, this is a lot of money, and there's a lot of people I've heard from as well as everybody else has heard from, and I don't know.
I totally agree with you. It is a hard decision. And in addition to the individuals that emailed, I also spoke with children, with parents, with people that don't have children in the district anymore, that are, you know, the senior. I've even spoken with people that open enroll their kids out of Menomonie into a different district. And I was surprised that not one of them was against it. I really was. I was, with the variety of individuals that I spoke with on a personal level, that they were all for supporting the sports complex, just on all different levels. And, you know, I totally agree, it is a hard decision, but in the end, I don't know. As David said, people elected us to be on the board and to listen to them, and yeah, I agree. I've just been doing a lot of listening with this to learn more, to gain more knowledge, and listen to what they're telling me, not what I personally feel. And I agree, I would love to see money donated towards, you know, something besides sports. I mean, I love sports. I grew up playing sports, but I agree, to give the whole experience to students, or just to tap into those students that focus on that, or even in the classroom. Like, I loved that, you know, the Fab Lab was updated, or we have this greenhouse now for those students that, you know, that's their area. So, and you know, we work on PTO, so raising funds for those schools, and it is becoming harder. I mean, you know too, Penny, it's just, there's so many needs out there. Would I love to take a wand and just say, yes, everything is fixed? Of course, but this is, I look at this as, this is what's before us right now. And I would love to see other things come before us and then discuss it like we have at this time. I mean, that's what Joe brought forward. We all agreed to talk about it. We had a lot of great discussion. I have learned a ton of background information with it, so.
I only have one more thing to say, and that is, I am not against lights, and I'm not against a track or sound system, but my integrity and my conscience will not allow me to vote yes for this because of the promise that was made from the very beginning, which is why I voted no from the very beginning, because I had a feeling we'd get to this point. And so that's all I have to say.
Would you have thought different if that didn't come forward? Because you're saying that you had a gut feeling it was going to come forward.
Yes. When they said they were going to raise $3.2 million, I didn't think they could do it.
So you don't have confidence in the community to raise that money? Is that what you're saying then?
Yes, I said no to that. And I said no all along. I'm not against it. I just think that the integrity of the promise, it needs to be kept. And that's my conscience. How I feel. And that was a good thing when I did.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, let's vote.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Staffing plan additions.
Okay, so in the previous discussion, there was a lot of discussion about fund balance versus contingency fund and all that. You all know that we have carried a $250,000 contingency fund into this school year, and that is to pay for unexpected expenses. Now that the third Friday count is complete, and some of the earlier enrollment transition settled a little bit, our principals and department directors have been reviewing class sizes and caseloads, and what we're finding is that there are some needs across the district. We had previously reported on some paraeducators that were needed due to some specific special needs. In addition to that, we are looking at half 0.5 FTE speech and language pathologists, 2 special education paraeducators, 4.5-hour educational support specialists, a half FTE of a bilingual paraeducator, and then 30 minutes of extended hours for 2 food service workers, 15 minutes each. Based on the needs of our students, certain IEPs have come through that require certain services. It's just one example. We think this is necessary to offer a program. In terms of long-term funding, when a student moves into our district that has special needs written into an IEP, we are then able to file for transfer of service, which then gives us funding flexibility for the following year. So the real concern of the funding would be this year, and we plan ahead with the contingency fund, so we feel that this is a good move for our school district. Are there any concerns with this at all?
I just have a question. Sorry, do you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay. Does that, are we still watching the Oakland 5th grade, and are they still at cap, or they're getting support, or where are we at with that? Because when last reported they were.
Yes, we've been keeping a close eye on it, and we did not get another influx that we were concerned with. It is a larger class size, but I know Mrs. Smith has been in communication with the teachers, and my understanding is that things are being handled very well by the teaching staff.
The bilingual parent, that was for what again?
Tonya, could you respond to that, please?
We have 3 Spanish-speaking students that don't have English, with zero English, so that was to help support those students throughout their school.
With the music, I understand there's multiple music classes in the middle school that are overwhelmed right now. And spreading one pair between them, is that actually going to make a difference? Or do we need actually more people in that position?
Well, I know Mr. Betcher has been in good communication with the teachers, and it's not that the teachers are teaching more classes, it's that the class sizes are so much larger. There's been a lot of interest, especially with the 6th grade band. But yeah, the way the schedule shifted also, the music teachers wanted to see their children every single day. So that has increased class sizes. The solution that Mr. Betcher came up with and the staff was to have this educational support specialist to help balance it out. And I'm sure he'll continue to communicate with the staff, keep an eye on it, but my understanding is that the staff was supportive of this plan.
David? Is the lunch, dinner time, is that for, at the middle school, or is that? Maybe it's at.
Oakland and Riverhead.
Oakland. So my question was, at the middle school, with the 3 lunch periods, is that going okay then with the staff that's there?
It's been a transition. We're making it work, and we've had some staff turnover there that we're working through. It seems to be.
Better?
Participation is up.
Okay. Thank you.
So this would just be for this year, correct?
Correct.
These hires.
Yeah, the board sees the staffing plan for 2019, 2020. You'll see that after February, early spring.
The 4.5-hour, is that converted to an FTE, or is it an hourly paid position? How is that?
Sam, do you want to take that?
As of right now, it's
It's an hourly position that we're hiring. So we're hiring it as an educational support specialist. And so it's an hourly position, again, based on need.
So it's not going to be a teacher, it's going to be a supervisor.
So will this person need any music?
That's what we're hoping for. Bart and I have been in communication almost daily as applicants are coming in. And so we have some screening questions that we will be asking when we have a pool of applicants that we want to start looking at. And that's one of the things that I put in the posting is that, that we prefer to have either someone who has been trained, gone to school, and has a music background or has experience in working with students with music.
But the nice thing is with the Chromebooks, it's not replacing the teacher by any means, but it's very interactive for the students, and we think we'd certainly prefer someone with musical experience, but talking with the teachers, the smart music program in the Chromebooks really is going to be the interactive piece during that time.
Do you need action on this sooner, or do you have enough just discussion now, or?
Well, it's an hourly position, so it's not contracted, but I guess I just wanted to hear from the board if there's any concerns at all.
I meant on all the positions, it's just a discussion item. But you have the authority to hire, don't you, and then approve?
Right. Yeah, and with the contracted position like a teacher, then we would put that on a future agenda to be approved. With the hourly positions, we'll just put them in a monthly employment report.
Okay.
So my big thing is I just want to make sure that we're acting in alignment with the board's expectations. So again, are there any concerns with this?
Yeah, I'm wondering about the special education pairs. What is the ratio of pair to teacher here?
Wait, it depends on what building you're talking about.
Well, we're talking about 2 buildings here.
Yeah. So, do you want to know how many paras are in each building?
Well, are we just, dumping a bunch of pairs on a teacher?
No. I do what's called a caseload factoring with all my special ed students. So a student isn't necessarily counted as one. They are counted based on their level, if they have elementary, middle, or high, and their disability, what their disability is, and then what we have is an environmental code, and that is how much time they are in regular ed compared to a self-contained program. And so students can range from having a number of 1 all the way up to 3.3. So I take that into consideration, and I look at each teacher's caseload to determine whether they are exceeding what DPI would recommend. This is a DPI formula, it's on their website. And so I look at that, and then the higher their number is, the justification for added para time. And I would say last year, as you know, I think it was 4 teachers that I added, and that was based on using those formulas to say, we've reached to the point where adding a para isn't sufficient. It actually requires another teacher. So last year, there were 4 additional special ed teachers that were added, that you approved. Thank you very much, because I think we're sitting in a much better position. And I would say this year, we've probably had, I think there's been 10 students of the, I can tell you, because I keep track of this, about 35 new special ed students that have come into their district. 10 of them had significantly high needs. So some of the added para time comes directly because a new student moves in, justification for more para time. So I don't I think Joe could tell you, I'm pretty, throwing paras at a teacher doesn't help them. It has to be well thought out in order to work.
Can I just ask what you meant by dumping paras onto a teacher?
I was kind of, I just, you have one teacher in 8 paras or 10 paras, and the teacher's supposed to keep track of all those paras and manage all that. That's what I was thinking.
I think you should figure,
Yeah, it was a
I
bad
don't think it's
choice.
dumping, it's they collaborate. And I think,
Yeah,
I love how
it was-
Tonya, I think I'm talking right now, but I love how Tonya didn't refer to them as paras, but she called them teachers also. So I think you need to be very respectful of the different communities you're speaking towards.
I'm sorry.
Are any of the paras one-on-one?
I would say, no. And I guess I have a personal belief, that one person should never be assigned to just one student all day. Because our students need to learn to work with a variety of people. I would say we definitely have students that need adult support 100% of their school day. And I like to use that terminology rather than to say a one-on-one. Because a true one-on-one is really, it's one teacher, one student. And we would never want to put a student and a teacher in a room all day just to be with each other. We would want them to be with other students. We would want them to work in a group. We want them to learn those skills, and we want them to also know that they can work with that teacher, or their educator, and lots of other people. Because I have found that I've seen students before that won't respond to the teacher because they will only respond to their paraeducator that was assigned to them. And that's not necessarily a healthy relationship.
Thank you. I really didn't mean to disparage. I just don't want to see teachers overloaded with pairs and
Yeah,
not
I
being
agree.
able to manage it. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, moving on. Item B, update of the school mental health services.
We're really excited about this opportunity working with UW South, and we reported a while back to the board about a pilot that we're planning, a school-based mental health services pilot program. And we've been working with folks at UW South, and I know Tony just had a recent meeting and actually got to meet the individual. Tony, could you repeat on that, or could you report on that?
Repeat many times.
Tyler Miller, the school psychologist at the high school, and I met with John from the university, and then also the practicum student, Sarah, and I cannot think of her last name. So, she's going to be the practicum student that is going to start in January. We talked about the position, a referral process, consent, to get consent from parents to see her, and how we would funnel that through. One, to make it work, she's going to start only 2 days a week, so there is a capacity. We talked about seeing students one-on-one, and then also potentially in a group setting. In the group setting would be in collaboration with one of our guidance counselors, which is actually very exciting for that. So we were very, very excited, and the university is hoping that we can expand the program. So.
How many students do you think you'll be able to?
They haven't done, the university hasn't placed someone in a public school before. So really that is a question that we're waiting to see. It's different because it can, some students may be seen really once a week. Some students it's once a month, depending on really what that student's needs are. So we don't quite know what the capacity is going to be. She's going to start with 2 days a week as her practicum. As soon as she starts her internship, it will be 3 days a week. So I couldn't even give you a guess of how many students she'll be able to see. But we're pretty excited.
So what we plan to do is, once it gets going, we'll have a report back to the board, probably early spring, and kind of let you know about how many students are being seen and how it's going, and what the prospects could be for expanding the program. But thank you, Tonya, for that update.
I have one other question. Yeah.
Sorry. My question is, this person's is more a mental health person. She's not a school guidance counselor. She's not a
No,
mental
she is
program.
not. She's in the other program at Stout, not the mental health.
Yeah, I went through the school guidance program, and we shared classes with mental health. But I do know, and this is just a question, I do know that as a school counselor, they don't have to have permission to see, you don't have to have permission to see a school counselor.
We are getting permission. One of the components of this is there is They are required to have so many of their sessions videotaped, and then they are watched by the university supervisor, because they are still considered a practitioner in training per se. So we are asking that parents give us permission, just initially so that we are not necessarily seeing a student that a parent is wishing that we didn't see. Because it is slightly different than a school guidance counselor.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I wondered if the difference between mental health and
That's the difference, yeah.
Okay.
And they are going to be using some assessment tools to determine level of risk. And some of those actually require parent permission. So.
Okay, thank you.
So on that video, maybe one question I had is, how are we dealing with confidentiality?
Well, that's the permission. The parents will sign to say they'll understand that it will be the practitioner and the university supervisor that will see it. My understanding is it's kept on the device. As soon as it's looked at, it is deleted from that device. That isn't something that even our staff will be able to see and view. It will be held within the university. Similar to, I don't know if you know, I've done some practicums. I went through Stout's program. I had a videotape working with some students as well, even in their lab that they have over there, similar to that. So
I did too. There was a form with the person.
yeah, and the student actually has to sign at the high school level.
Does the videotaping take place at the high school or at the Stout lab?
The video at the high school. I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking of something else, because one of the components is, because it's a practicum and it's not necessarily considered a district employee, one of the things we talked about is that many students don't need just individual counseling, they also need some family therapy, and that we are looking at whether we could do kind of a dual thing where the families could be seen at the university in the evening at their lab there. And then that would be taped there, and that would open it up as far as the student attends here, maybe seen here, but also gets a family therapy component as well.
And as I remember, it's only the supervisor that, and the student that goes and sees, reviews it.
Yes.
And then the supervisor gives feedback on how they're doing.
Yep, exactly.
So it's not like it's going out to the whole.
Oh, no, you can't have confidentiality, no.
I'm wondering though, what if the parents demand to see the tapes?
I guess I would have to look to see what the university policy says on that, and parents are given permission. Those are some of the things we're still working out. We have a bunch of forms that we're looking at, like permission forms and things like that. I would have to ask the university if they've ever had that, that situation where parents have requested to see it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I was just going to say totally anecdotal comments, but when I was going to Stout for my master's degree rehab, I was lucky enough to have John Clem as my instructor, and let me tell you, I mean, everybody sat through classes where you're like, wow, that just went in one ear and out the other, and with him, he's amazing. And so the thought that there are students that are, you know, working with him in our schools makes me extremely excited to see what happens. It's the best.
Any more discussion? Questions? Okay, moving on. Policy Form 11.3, Education of Homeless Children.
So we're reviewing policies. Tonya is on a roll here. Tony worked with school social worker Stacy Plummer, and we've identified that we really should have a policy for the education of homeless children and youth in our school district. We took the School Board Association model, but then Tonya and Stacy spent time looking at it. Tonya, is there anything you wanted to report on this?
I think we looked at maybe 4 other districts' policies and kind of meshed the best wording of all of them to come up with the policy.
So this is the first reading. Are there any suggestions for additional changes, questions?
I was just curious, under basic needs, like, what's your thought about what that really entails. On the last page.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The last sentence, Tricia?
Yeah, provision of education and basic.
I would call, basic needs is food, shelter, I would say that's probably, right now Stacy is just starting to work with some of our homeless population, and I would say she would probably say those are the highest needs that some of our families have, that she helps coordinate services for.
Can you, I guess I'm just wondering about the homeless liaison. Who would that person be designated?
Right now, I'm designated as the homeless
Okay.
liaison. You have to designate somebody, it's actually on the DPI website. So, for example, if we have a family that becomes homeless, they are temporarily living in Durand, I can look up on the DPI website who their homeless liaison. Currently, I'm listed as the homeless liaison. Typically, it's an administrator because sometimes they have to make financial decisions with that. Thank you.
And I think it's important to point out that we already, for years, have provided services, and this really is just formalizing what the process looks like.
Thank you. Yeah, moving on, review of the state assessment report.
So in my weekly memo to the board, I noted that Brian was putting together a report, and this is obviously very important data, this assessment data, but it's also important to understand that this is one piece of the pie. And Amy, I know you've commented on assessment quite a bit in the past. We do use this data and review it carefully. The next step will be getting the school report cards, which goes beyond achievement and also includes growth and other measures. But Brian is here tonight to go through the assessment report that was recently released. So Brian, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So last meeting, you heard me go through and provide a summary of our SLOs that were established at the building site. As you recall, our building administrators will take a look at their building level data, which includes the state level assessment data from the prior year and several years, to develop a plan at their site that they feel helps meet the needs that are present within their buildings. What is in front of you tonight takes a look at our specific state level assessments that we are required to administer each year in the spring of the year. At the high school, our juniors take the ACT assessment and the ACT work keys test. So that information is included. And then in grades 3 through 8, our students will take the Wisconsin Forward exam for English language arts and mathematics. And then in grades 4, 8, and 10, that assessment also includes social studies. Each one of these pieces of information for these assessments, it takes a look at each year, the students at that level, and measures how they measure in relation to an established scale score or cut score related to 4 different levels of proficiency, being advanced, proficient, basic, and minimal proficiency. So one of the things that I like to do, and I tried to capture this in the report tonight, is to take a look at more than just 1 year, look at trends over time, and what we're seeing is what we observe in our district overall matches what we're seeing in the region with those assessment trends. One of the things that I think is important for us to do is to take a look at how our students do in comparison each year related to the state average, but then I also like to capture some districts in our region to see how our students are faring and if they're following similar trends. And in most cases, we are seeing those trends. Again, as far as taking a look at breaking this down, there's not a real easy way to say this is how all of our students do for all grades combined, so we break it down. One of the drawbacks of giving the ACT assessment is it's only given to 1 grade. So we're looking at 1 snapshot from 1 point in time for 1 grade, and it's a different group of students each school year that we see when we take a look at that. So that's why it's important to look at our trends over time. With the forward assessment, we're able to capture grades 3 through 8, roll those all together, and give us kind of a nice general snapshot how we're doing. And that information rolls into our alternate assessment as well, captures our students who don't take the forward exam or the ACT exam for those grades, which is referred to as the dynamic learning map. And I remember years and years ago when we gave the WKC exam, we had an alternate assessment. Basically, the takeaways as I look at where we are right now, in addition to, like I said, seeing that we're following similar trends with the region this year, where the state as a whole has seen a little bit of a decrease in relation to prior years. But some of the things that we've seen is in the areas of math and science, our performance for all grades combined has been relatively stable in those areas. At the middle grades, in grades 6 to 8, we've observed a slight increase over that 3-year window of time that's been captured that we've been given the Wisconsin Forward exam. That has only been given for 3 years. And then when we take a look at social studies, all grades combined, we actually have seen an overall increase with that. Taking a look at what we see as far as some areas of need or opportunities for growth, as I like to look at them. I think Amy, you referred to talking about a student success report versus an achievement report. Taking a look at our elementary ELA, we're a little inconsistent with our performance overall over those 3 years, so taking a look at that. But then, we in that same period of time saw a slight decrease in our overall proficiency levels related to elementary science. Like with everything, we take stock of what we're doing and where we're working. And the one thing that I will say in talking with colleagues in our districts, as well as things that we've identified as next steps in our district, there's areas that we've identified as far as opportunities for growth. We've been having conversations around, and in many cases are doing things to address those needs. I shared a lot of those with the board at the last meeting, so I won't rehash the whole list, but specific to elementary literacy, knowing that we need to start early, we are looking at K1 phonics with our primary students, knowing that that is going to help set the stage for our early literacy piece. We've taken on a focus with writing in K-8, specific to address some of the needs we've identified related to literacy. And then again, last year, if you remember, we did our resource study for elementary science. So I'm hoping that the work that we're doing this year with that is going to help us address some of those needs that we've seen in those areas overall. Again, when we take a look at kind of where we're at right now, knowing that we've only had 4 years with the ACT from a statewide perspective, I think we've got some good information to go with right now as far as some programmatic needs that we have, and we've brought in some work in that area already. Last spring we started that work as well. And then also taking a look at the fact that when we layer this in with growth between cohorts year to year, as we look ahead to our report cards that will be coming, one of the things historically that we've seen when we start to take a look at the different demographic groups that are identified with larger concentration in our district, our students who are identified with a disability, our students who are learners of the English language, our students who are economically disadvantaged, and then in the case of our district, our students of Asian descent are our most prominent demographic groups that are identified with achievement gaps. The state as a whole, if you followed that, has identified really digging into improving achievement with our what sometimes are referred to as underserved populations. We see achievement gaps as well in our district, but overall, when we take a look in relation to the state, we have seen our ability to close those gaps in many of those areas, and that school report card, which I think does a nice job of capturing a much larger picture of student growth and learning. We've been able to pick those apart over the years, and we'll do the same thing with that as we go forward this year. So again, as far as taking a look, there weren't any items in our reports this year that came as a surprise to our teams when we looked at them, when we took a look at our local assessments, but it's helped to give us some areas of focus and priority moving forward. So if there are specific questions, I'm happy to address those individually if you have them, but again, overall, this is one piece of the information that we'll use. And then as we roll into the report cards, which will be released publicly in November, helps to tell that story as well.
You probably said this at the beginning, but St. Croix Central and Marabou, are they similar district size? Is that
Yeah,
right?
sure. So St. Croix Central, the reason why St. Croix Central is one that we pull into this, again, a regional comparison, and when we take a look at within our CISA 11 area, it's a district that, again, we use as a comparison. As far as Baraboo, I forget how many years ago it was, a request came forward to ask, or to pull in a comparison from outside of the region that matches up with us, and to kind of give you a snapshot. Baraboo, about 3,000 students. So about same size. You take a look at demographics. There are students with disabilities that are identified, 13%. We are 14.5%, so similar there. Economically disadvantaged, within 5 percentage points of the same percentage that we have. An ELL population a little less than what we have. They have 2.4%. We're 4.2%. So similar size outside of the region. We've actually been able to take a look at some of the programming that they've utilized over the years and some of the similarities and differences that we've used in that way. And so that's why that one's pulled in.
Makes sense.
Anyone else? So I'm wondering, we're going to be able to get a breakdown, the segregation of this data, so that we can see what those different subgroups in our student population.
So we can drill down to different subgroups if the board would like to see a follow-up on a specific group. We do have some limitations as far as size. Once a group gets below a certain number of students, we are not able to report on it publicly because it would become, we'd be able to identify down to the student. Generally, we look at cell sizes no smaller than 20 students to report that data publicly. If there's a specific group that we would like to take a look at, once we jump into our report cards, that takes that information based off of the building, and it will roll it together where it will provide a nice summary report, not on one individual subgroup per se, but rolling all of those subgroups together for a closing gap score. For example, our district report card, when that comes forward, that will give us a calculation for students with disability, English language learners, economically disadvantaged, and students of Asian descent. Because at the district level, that is what that is based off of. Some buildings may not report on all of those because they don't have a large enough concentration of that. At the building level, our building level teams do go into each individual subgroup category to identify where the persistent gaps are. I think that's very valuable work to be done at a building level. But if the board would like to have a more detailed report with those subgroups from the district level, we can definitely do that.
So how are we doing basically? Were these results basically anticipated from your previous testing and
So yes, when we take a look at the results that we had for this year, based off of what we saw with our screening assessment and our local assessment throughout the school year, we anticipated that we would have a lower ACT score this year than we had prior years. We actually had taken a look at the needs present within that cohort of students over the years. And actually had adjusted some programming based on what we saw throughout the course of the years. Actually led to some programmatic changes specifically in the areas of English language arts at the high school. Taking a look at the 9th and 10th grade, we actually piloted a course last year, and obviously it was not something that this group of juniors participated in, but in taking a look at trends over time, we made some adjustments that way. And then taking a look at, year to year, when we take a look at grades 3 through 8, again, with 3 years worth of data, I think 4 years helps to paint a little clearer picture, because any 1 year in a 3-year swing, if you have one outlier, it's going to really change the trajectory of that trend line. So I am very interested in what our spring of 2019 data is going to tell us, especially at our elementary level in the area of English language arts. I'm hopeful that based off of some initial information that we have this year from screening, that we'll see that either level out or start to increase. And then when we take a look at our areas as far as like K-5 math, K-5 science, we've made some programmatic changes in recent years. K-5 science going into this year. Middle school, we saw some needs in the area of math, so we're piloting a new math resource this year that we think better aligns with the changes we made at the elementary level, where we've seen some nice gains over the years. I've always said that your state assessment results should never come as a surprise to you, because if you're monitoring things over the course of time and trying to take corrective action as you go throughout the course of the year, you're being responsive to your student needs. And I think there are lots of things that we have done going into this school year that are in response to the things that we saw throughout the last few years. And again, I think Joe did a nice job at the beginning of highlighting, this shows one piece of the overall picture. It does not break down by cohort growth over time. We used to try and do that in more detail with this report, but with the onset of the state report cards, that's what they're designed to do, is to track those trends over time and focus in on that growth over time. We have a good idea of what those look like going into a year, and looking at that information when it comes out, I think helps one save us some time, but then reaffirm the work that we're doing.
So basically, the things that you've identified that we're doing curricular-wise were things that you pretty much anticipated there would be shown in this data.
Yeah, as far as areas of need to prioritize, yes. I think our building level teams have done a very good job of identifying needs throughout the course of the year as far as where priorities and focus need to be. Over the last 6 years at the building level, we've really focused a lot on meeting the needs of some of our lowest performing students through our RTI process and intervention periods. And we've done lots of things related to meeting those needs, increasing available interventions to students, the universal ring time that's present at our middle school, making some tweaks at the elementary level, high school, when they take a look at how they utilize ELT time. I know they've made some tweaks along the way with that process. So that's one of the reasons why when we take a look at our demographic groups that are identified, that where we have achievement gaps, why we've seen some gains in those areas over the years. We need to continue to work on those pieces, and then the curricular changes that we've been making the last few years really tie into that core instruction piece outside of intervention. And right now our staff are doing, I think, a good job of pre-talking what are some of the next steps that we need to take a look at specific to that. The writing goal that we have, K-8, is in direct response to taking a look at that core instructional piece, specifically at the middle school, looking at interdisciplinary literacy, writing across content areas. They're just starting to collect that data now. That will serve as a basis for some PD that they're going to do on our October PD day. So when you take a look at those pieces, while it's always nice to see increases in overall achievement, when we identify areas that we need throughout the course of the year, it allows us to be, I think, a lot more nimble when it comes to how we respond to that. And I think we're at a point right now that we have a lot more tools at our disposal than we did even 3 years ago to respond to some of those things.
Thank you.
I know we're probably ready to move on, but one more thing I want to point out is if you go to the last 2 pages, I just want to say kudos to our staff. When we went through our results last year, one of the concerns we had the last couple of years were our social studies numbers. Not that they were terrible, but kind of across the board, it seemed like our social studies performance wasn't where we had hoped it would be. And we had a communication with the staff, and we just asked people, please, let's really try to emphasize, social studies and make sure we're hitting our standards, and maybe relook at your lessons and make sure they're aligned, and we're not having these gaps and overlaps and stuff. And just really, really pleased. I mean, if you look grade 8 over social studies 2 years ago, 44.2, and in 17-18, 62.8. And then we saw good growth in the 10th grade as well. And there's definitely demographic factors that need to be considered, but at the end of the day, we asked our staff delivered, we can be really proud of them.
Okay. Moving on. Review of the actuary study.
So this is something that comes before the board anytime the actuarial study is reviewed. You can see that there's a 3-page summary. We also included the 3-page summary from the year before. Leah does a lot of the legwork working with key benefits, and we appreciate that. But if you look at our net position, definitely way different than it was years ago, continues to move in the right direction. Leah, is there anything that you wanted to point out specifically on this report?
Well, I just wanted to mention the table on page 2, the changes in OPEB liability. That includes the health insurance premium benefits, the HRA payments. The table on page 3 is the pension stipend liability portion of that. So there's actually 2 reports that benefits prepares, separating out the OPEB or the health insurance benefit cost to the stipend pension piece.
So when we get to the mid-year budget hearing, you'll see that we'll have a graph that shows exactly what's been going on with OPEB over the years, and we compare it year to year. But this is kind of the nuts and bolts of what builds that graph. This is also June 30th, Leah, correct?
Correct. June 30th of 2018.
Right, so we'll see a contribution made after that. So that'll have a nice impact too on the pension piece of it.
Does this include what we put in June?
What we put in June actually was a payment. We actually did it at the end of July, but it was posted back to June 30th, so it would be included, yes.
Any other questions?
Oh, sorry, Dave.
I can remember years ago when we were, $20 to $25 million for our OPEB liabilities, and so to see where this is at compared to where we were, I think it's some forward thinking by the district to get us to where we are now from that standpoint.
Yeah, the board's had a really good vision on this.
It looks like in the year, once we get out a few more years, it really drops off as well.
Right. Okay.
All right. Review the for the college credit reports.
This comes in front of the board this time each year. Used to be youth options. Brian did a really nice job putting in some of the recent years. You can see the number of requests for each year by how many students. So for the spring of 2019, 35 requests by 10 students. Brian, is there anything else you want to add? Any questions at all for Brian?
All right, thank you. Review of the budget time.
I know the board's very well aware of this, but I just wanted to put it out there, just a reminder that at the next meeting, the board will be considering the final budget, setting the tax levy. We're going to be receiving all of our state aid certification, our evaluation, our enrollment is now done. So just so you're prepared, I'll get a lot of numbers at the next meeting. Any questions on the budget timeline?
All right.
Did we ever get, we're still up in the year, we had a meeting where our final enrollment count was the third Friday?
Yes.
Who shows up before and after if they're not there the day of?
Right. That'll be in the budget documents at the next meeting.
Okay.
But we are up.
Okay, moving on. Strategic planning update.
So a couple things. First of all, there was a room location change. The listening session at Stella is not going to be in the Badger room, it's going to be in the Birch room. So I see Barbara from Dunn County News had to take off, but she made the change right away on the online version of the Dunn County News. It was updated in the school crossings on our school district website. We'll be sending out a reminder message also, but otherwise the schedule is good. And we'll be meeting with the principals tomorrow in our leadership team meeting and going through the process. And like we talked about, there's going to be a random selection of students and all that. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done this week in preparation for the upcoming listening sessions. Any questions about strategic planning today?
Just a quick question. So are we able to go to the listening sessions then? What if we do?
Well, it's a public meeting, so board members are welcome to attend. In fact, we are looking for board members who maybe want to serve as welcoming ambassadors. I know Heather signed up, Penny signed up, Amy signed up for a couple. So if you look at the schedule and there's a couple of those that might work for you, please email me. And really just to welcome people. What Studer has suggested is that if board members want to attend a public one, that's okay. They suggested though really that the discussion happen by more of the community than the board. I'm hoping that we'll have good attendance. We had very good participation in our survey, so I'd be interested to see how many people are willing to do both and take the time to come to the meetings.
Do we know, you must know, which board members are already going to be at certain meetings, so we know which meetings?
Yes,
it's on the chart.
Yep, it's on the schedule.
Oh, it says it.
They're under the final schedule.
Yeah, that's where I was.
So you're meeting tomorrow with the...
Anyway, so it's there somewhere. Okay, so yeah.
Here.
All right, so when I can pull it up.
And there's no representative for the student sessions, student listening sessions. It would only be for the community and parent sessions.
You mentioned you're going to be meeting tomorrow, talking about whether there's going to be random assignment?
No, there are going to be random assignments. We're meeting with the principals to schedule it all.
All right, any other comments? Okay, review line items in the next board meeting.
Just a reminder, the board has a listening session scheduled for next Monday. So if that's not on your calendar, please make sure it's on your calendar. And that's the strategic plan listening sessions specifically for the board.
What time is that?
5 o'clock, 5 to 6:30. Yep, right here.
Just a half hour.
Yeah.
That's at 5:30, Joe?
5 o'clock, 5 o'clock to 6:30.
6:30 to 5, you said?
It's in board docs.
AM, David, it's 5:30 AM.
He's probably there.
Oh, so they'll be over by 6:30, so I still have time to get to the.
With the doors.
Dodgers are bringing the Bruins with them.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Pick up anything.
The Cubs had to contend with the Dodgers a lot, so it's kind of a
I heard that about the Rockies.
Yeah. So Jim just signed up for 7 a.m. on October 22nd. Does anybody else want to volunteer at this point for any other ones?
Let me look at my calendar and get back to you.
Okay, just email me tomorrow.
I'll take whatever's left.
Okay, so just let you know. Okay.
Maybe I have to read that, so.
Do you want someone, would you like someone at each location?
It's nice. I mean, between the leadership team and other people, we can make sure someone's there to welcome, but it's really whatever the board wants in terms of participation. Studer's comfortable doing it too, but I think you just sit there and look.
Nice.
Interested.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?